Hello, Shelley. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Hi, guys.
Hi, good morning.
See you.
Hi, Michelle.
Hi, how are you?
I'm very excited.
Excellent, really great. We have a good PowerPoint, right, Shelley, that we put together?
We do.
Lots of good information.
Oh, that's
And
terrific.
how many people are we scheduled to have, Shelley?
We had 95 registered.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
That's a lot, but you know, sometimes people can't make it. If they can't, that's okay. We have it recorded. As long as we see the little red flashing button on the upper left-hand corner that says record, we're good.
Good.
We could always, you know, you can access it afterwards to rewatch it. Because I think, Shelley, you're going to post it on your site.
Of course I am.
Yes, and we'll post it on our site too. I'm just going to make sure here for a second that the PowerPoint is good to go. So bear with me.
Mm-hmm.
And I could take this PowerPoint back down when we introduce ourselves, but you can see the PowerPoint right now, right? You all?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And I just want to make sure, see if I made any changes here so I could show Shelley too. We have, let's see. I think I just added something here at the end. We just added this kind of like, you know, to end the PowerPoint, which we didn't have an ending before.
Perfect.
So we have that in there. And Maria, have you, or Marian, have you been in one of the concepts classes before? I feel like I've seen you.
I haven't, but I'm an ardent follower of Shelley, who I have tremendous respect for because she always finds great little tools and she's always accessible. And I've known Shelley for a long time. So I'm very excited to join this class. I'm looking for some new tools. You know, we haven't obviously still being given the go-ahead to do facials yet in Southern California, but it reopened this week. We've closed for 10 months in total. I can't believe I'm being fortunate enough to stay in business, quite frankly, but my clients have been amazing. And I'm looking for some new tools. Quite frankly, I'm doing home visits and taking some of the tools with me. And I tell you, I'm going to get a tool that I've got from Shelley that I love. Hang on a second.
And it's great, Shelley, to be able to take your tools, you know, with them because they're great, they're powerful, but they're, you know, accessible enough and small enough to be able to take them. Oh, excellent.
They love this. I love it too. I use it all around my face, but it's so nice. I mean, technology has certainly saved us in the pandemic in so many ways. But what's nice about these little tools is that you can charge them before you go. They're all portable. And then the client is getting as much electrotherapy in the garden as they would in a salon, you know. So it's been wonderful. And we're doing just waxing right now, but hopefully in the next few weeks, we'll be able to get back to facials. And that's why I'd like some new toys to play with. So.
And you have some new ones that you're introducing, Shelley.
Not really, to be honest with you.
Well, for some people, they're new.
For some people,
newer.
they'll be new. For Marian, they won't be because she's so up on everything I'm doing. I have tested a few in the last couple of weeks and they got, so it won't.
No.
It happens all the time. You guys just don't hear about the stuff that I don't like. I only tell you about the stuff I like, you know, but.
That's why we love you so much, because you know, we can trust you, and know that in fact, I still want to ask you about the unit that is the galvanic microcurrent, that combination we were talking about a couple of months ago.
Good morning.
We can talk about, which one is it? That's
Wave?
Yes.
Wave, okay.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
It's good,
We don't have to do it today, but we can talk in this week maybe. So that's something I'd like to add.
There's one piece right now that I gave to a client of mine a week ago for her to be testing, because I thought, wouldn't it be interesting, because we're selling a lot of things for home use. Let me get feedback from the actual client rather than just me. And yesterday I got a text from her. She goes, oh, I'm loving this. So I may have something new for clients coming up.
Cool. That would be great.
Great. So you've got some things in the work right now, and it's great that you're able to test everything out and make sure that it's something that's going to be effective and safe before you actually bring it up and you bring it out for the estheticians to see, which is always nice. Good morning, Charlene. I'm sorry?
Michele, where are you located?
Myself, we are located in Northern California. Our training facility is now in Sausalito. It used to be in the Daly City, more of the South, the San Francisco region. And mostly what I teach is most things clinical and paramedical, and the technology and the protocols and the procedures and other things like that. So everything from that you can imagine, ultrasound through LED, microcurrent, good morning, Taylor, everything in between, paramedical aesthetics, and so on and so forth. So
Very cool, very cool.
Yeah, so really excited. Can you both, Charlene and Taylor, hear us? Taylor?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect, excellent, good morning. We're waiting, we will start at 10 o'clock. We do have, I think Shelley said, about 95 people joining us, but probably not everyone will be able to get on. This is recorded. As long as you see the little button up there in the corner, the little red button flashing record, it's recorded. So later on, Shelley and myself will have it on our websites. So you can always go back and watch it, because there's going to be a lot of technology talk. I'll talk a lot about like ultrasound, the difference between ultrasonic and ultrasound. A lot of people have the question today about blue LED and the damaging effects of certain types of blue LED and certain nanometers. So I'll talk about that, because I know we all use either the blue or the green, or one of those nanometers, one of those colors to help treat skin. So we'll get into that as well. So we have a lot of really good information for you. We'll wait probably like another, good morning.
Good morning.
Hi. So yeah, let's see how many people are with us so far. We have about 6, and I know we're waiting for a lot, but Shelley, we'll still go ahead and start at 10 o'clock.
Okay, we've got a few
So
minutes. We're a little
we'll
early.
stay on schedule today. And make sure you, I was just going to say, make sure you have your computer or a pen and a pencil to take lots and lots of notes, because I'm going to give you, and Shelley's going to give you a lot of good information that you probably want to write down.
So Michele, are you doing a lot of online courses at this point so you can continue to teach?
Say that again, Marion?
Are you doing a lot of online courses, Michele, so that you can still teach?
Myself? Oh yeah, all of our classes that are live or that was live and will be live again for those of you who are in the vicinity in April, hopefully. But yeah, so all of the classes are online, and they all start with a theory with Zoom, like we're doing now, and you get the PowerPoint, and then they all come with a really good thorough demonstration video, because of course we can't be hands-on right here, so it comes with a demo video, and I do talk you through it, and people can use estheticians can use their models or their friends and family and practice while you're watching that and while we're going through it in all of the different classes. Yeah. Hello, Linda.
Hey,
Recognizing a lot of, good morning, recognizing a lot of faces as you all pop up here. Some of you are not, but I recognize names.
Michele, I would like to get feedback from everybody afterwards, that if they enjoy this, if they think it's something that's really helpful, if maybe every other month we do this, because we've taken questions that people have emailed to us. And if we do this again, we're not going to get the same question. So it's going to be different every time we do it. And probably a couple of months from now, I'll have other pieces of equipment to talk about and show. So this might be something we kind of put on the books, Michele.
I think it's a good idea. There are always new innovative pieces of equipment and technology coming available, and things change sometimes too. Like I get a lot of questions from my esthetician students about the damaging effects of blue LED, and what that means, and in what are you looking at when you're looking at the damaging effects rather than the beneficial healing effects. So things like that pop up all the time, so it's good to kind of be able to go somewhere to get your questions answered.
Hey,
I think that's a good idea.
I'm really positive.
Hi, Rita.
Oh, hi.
I can see names, but not a lot of faces yet. We got to see your faces, you guys. It's more fun when
Yes, show your face and your beautiful faces.
See those beautiful faces.
It's Sunday morning, it's sometimes you just don't want to you haven't gotten that far yet.
I actually feel like I was going on a date, because I haven't put on makeup and real clothes in a while.
I know what you mean.
Oh.
Do you want to start out maybe, Shelley? Hi, Deborah.
Hi.
Hi, Deborah.
Hi, Michelle. How are you?
Let's give a couple more minutes and then we'll just kind of do a
Okay.
little introduction and dive into it. But because we had 95 people register, let's give them a couple more minutes.
Good idea. And I'm just going to make sure here that I've got the PowerPoint ready to go.
Hi.
I won't.
Hi,
Sure,
Shelley.
yeah.
I'm Michelle.
Hi, good morning. Okay, share. Let's take this down for a second. So you can all see that PowerPoint when we eventually put it up, right?
Mhm.
Okay. We'll stop share for a second. We'll bring that up in a minute.
And then once we do get started, everyone, we're going to have you mute. You don't have to do it right now because we're all just kind of saying hi. But once we get started, hi, Joan. I see your name, but no, it's blank.
If you can't see us for some reason or hear us, or you don't see the recording button flashing in the corner up there, let us know so that we can fix that for you. It's also being recorded so that myself and both Shelley will have it up on our websites afterwards. So if you do miss a piece of it, or if you happen to have internet problems, Wi-Fi problems, don't worry. You could come back and watch it on the recording, which will be up for a while too, right, Shelley? You'll have it up for a little while.
Definitely. Hi, Renee.
Hi, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Kaylee, hello. Beth, I see Beth and Debbie.
Yes.
This is fun.
Hi.
So how do they do,
Hi.
I usually have smaller classes. So if we had all 95 people show up, everybody's going to be in little teeny boxes by that point, right?
I know. With smaller classes, it's nice to have an introduction to kind of get to know the virtual room. But with larger classes, that makes it a little bit hard because we'd probably be here until 5 o'clock today.
Whenever I work with my students in school, I want to see their pictures, not just their names, because I'm like, I'm watching you. Are you paying attention?
Yeah, that's important. And plus, then you could be a little bit more interactive. Right.
Yeah.
So what we'll do, maybe, Shelley, everyone, knows you and has had the pleasure of meeting you in the past, but maybe just doing some very brief introductions, just so maybe people who haven't met us before will get to know us a little bit before we start.
We can do that. I can do that, definitely.
A couple minutes or so.
Let's give them, it's like 9:59 according to my clock. So let's give them just a couple more. I can see people coming on. Beth, that's a cute haircut.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I love it.
Just cut all my gray off. Yeah.
It's fabulous. It's so fun for me because I talk to you guys all the time and I email with you, but don't typically know what anybody looks like.
Right.
This is great.
Oh, they don't keep their video up for you, Shelley?
Well, no.
You don't make it mandatory.
Just
on the
face.
phone.
Yeah.
I see. Yeah.
Yeah. Now I get to put a face to the voice.
Mm-hmm. We know your face, right? Yeah.
Yeah. It's everywhere.
And you have all of your different pieces of equipment there with you too. So that's great. So when we talk about the different technologies and the different pieces, you can hold them up. I have the curve here. Actually, I have two curves here.
I'll be like Vanna
You can
White.
use one in each hand, while doing the body or the face. And you have, which piece did you just have up there, Shelley?
This was the wave.
Oh, okay, you have the wave.
The wave, yeah. Yeah.
Does everyone have different pieces of Shelley's equipment that you use in your treatments? Excellent. For all of your different facial treatments. What is your very favorite? I'm just wondering if someone wants to offer that. I know there's so many, you can't really, they're all my favorites, but what is your favorite of all of them? Anyone?
I think what's become absolutely essential for us is the ultrasound unit that I got from Shelley. I use that in practically every single facial.
The eye rejuvenator that you were talking about? Yeah.
Oh, no, that's good. No, the ultrasound, we got the ultrasound.
Ultrasonic spatula.
Yes, the spatula.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
for both.
Facial, regardless of what else I'm doing, it's just fantastic for really good doing deep cleaning and also for pushing active ingredients into the skin. So
that's the first piece of equipment I recommend to people. Like if they don't have anything and they say, Shelley, where do I get started? It's always the ultrasonic spatula that I have them start with. definitely.
And that's one of the staples I think we have down too. And we mentioned that in the PowerPoint. It's something that, or if it isn't, it should be. It's something that you just have to have. It's a staple that you should have in your treatment room at all times, because most people don't have contraindications and it benefits everyone.
Okay.
I use the Nano too. The Nano is fabulous.
Nano Skin Pro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
The
that's-
Nanoskin Pro right here.
Yeah. And bad
Yes,
news
I
about that.
know.
Yeah, I'm not going to be able to get those any longer. So I'm trying to find something to replace. And in fact, I was testing something last week and it got the thumbs down. So I'm
Thumbs
still
down.
on the
Oh.
fourth thing.
But you'll find something, because this
I
is
will.
such a multifaceted modality that I'm sure you're going to find something great to replace it. Okay, it looks like we're right on schedule now.
Let's go for it. So good morning. Good morning, all my
Good
fellow-
morning. Good to see everybody. Smiling, beautiful faces this morning or this afternoon in some places.
So welcome to my treatment room and welcome to Tech Talk. So myself, Shelley Hancock, and my friend Michele Phelan from Concepts Institute of Advanced Training. We're gonna kind of dive deep today and talk about technology, talk about modalities. And the cool thing about Michele and I working together is I'm kind of your creative director. I've got that creative mind that I actually love to spend time testing pieces of equipment, making sure that they're quality, they're effective, they're worth your money, that the company's good. So I spend a lot of time doing that, putting protocols together, putting training videos together. And then we've got fabulous Michele, who is highly technical, which I am not. So that's why I love connecting with her. And she's going to really dive in deep with you guys and tell you some more about the technology. So, I just want you to get comfy. I want you to have a paper and pencil. We both are very seasoned estheticians, right, Michele? We both over 30 years in the industry.
34 years. I'm right there, right neck and neck with you, Shelley.
We
34
are.
years. Can you believe it?
But I got you on one thing. I'm more seasoned in the age category.
But we're very close there too. All of the years of skincare is helpful.
Yeah, really, it's a great industry, and you all know that. So we're just going to get started. Today, we've got questions that people have emailed into us. So we're going to go over those first. And then if we have time left and anybody has any other questions, we'll kind of dive into those. And Michele and I were just saying that we think this may be a good idea, like maybe every other month, we'll put together one of these tech talks, because we're always going to come up with different questions to have answered. So if you like what you hear today and you enjoy this, let me know so we can kind of put this together for, what are we in, February, March, another one for April. Michele, I'm going to let you just take over and start with our PowerPoint.
Okay. And I see a lot of familiar faces too, and those that are new, so it's good to see everyone. And just so you know who's kind of been giving you the other half of the information today. As you know, my name is Michele, and I've been in this industry just as long as Shelley, about 34 years. And I've taught everything from basic state board all the way through clinical, paramedical, and kind of everything in between. Sedesco International. And I teach all of the clinical and half of the paramedical aesthetics phase at Concepts Institute with Dr. Bradley Green, who's our medical director. So, and I do a lot of business consulting and things like that too. I still have a practice. Most of my clients have been with me for about 34 years. So just like with Shelley, if you do have any questions afterwards, something maybe that we didn't answer, feel free, you could email me. My email is at the back of this PowerPoint, which you will have access to, right, Shelley? We'll have it up on the website for a couple of months or so until the new one comes up. Okay, so welcome everybody. Now, if you can't see my PowerPoint or you can't hear us, let me know. We're going to go ahead and start. These are some of the questions that were sent in to Shelley that we took in and created a PowerPoint from. And at the end of this, if there is any time, hopefully there is, and I'm not too long-winded explaining these things. Shelley knows to cut me off if I am, because I tend to talk a lot. We can take questions, right, Shelley?
Yes, definitely. Definitely.
So we are going to start with the My Tama, which is something that you have, Shelley sells, which you were telling me the other day that you love and you use a couple of times a week yourself, and we can definitely see that on your skin.
Thank you. It's pronounced Me Tama.
Me Tama, okay.
Yeah. and I am a little bit addicted to it. I just have to say that's my new favorite piece of equipment, most definitely. I'm going to let you talk about the technology, then I'll kind of talk about how I use it.
Yeah, she's recording.
Okay.
Sveta, can you
And
put
for those-
yourself on,
Watch that movie.
Sveta?
I can help you do that too. There you
Okay,
go.
there we
And
go.
it's just so that we don't end up hearing ourselves instead of being able to, everything comes back in our ears. So thank you for doing that. Okay, so Shelley, you said METAMA,
Me, Tama.
and I'm going to talk about the technology just in general of microcurrent, about microcurrent. I know everyone has some knowledge of microcurrent, and some of you probably use this piece or maybe another piece in your facility right now. But let's talk about what the technology, is and what it does and how it affects the skin physiologically. So, let me go ahead. Yeah, for anyone who's just coming in right now, good morning, Kat. Go ahead and place yourself. There you go. I did it for you. So microcurrent technology uses electrophoresis, which is very, very fast moving electricity that is able to recharge the mitochondria of the cell. So it's taken into, it resonates with the body's own electrical system. So you don't have to worry about, being electrocuted or your clients having any issues with the electricity, unless of course they have contraindications, which we'll talk about as well. And I know Shelley, you go over that as well in, when you talk about this particular technology. But basically what microcurrent does is it's absorbed into the skin, and it is very multifaceted. One thing that I really love about microcurrent, just in general, is that it's absorbed into the neuron, which is the nerve cell. The superficial neurons, of course, not the very deep muscles, but more of the superficial insertion muscles. It's absorbed into the neuron, and it's taken, that energy is taken into that nerve cell, and then it absorbs the energy and throws it over to the muscle, so the muscle actually contracts. So maybe in some cases, some of you that have used microcurrent, you kind of feel that pulsating on the skin. You're actually getting a tightening and a toning of the superficial insertion muscle. So it's not that it just works on the dermis, which it does as well, but it also works on the muscles. Another thing that we really love about microcurrent is that when the energy is absorbed into the dermis, it's absorbed, and I'm sure everyone's heard this term before, right? At least if you've been in my classes, you have, and I'm sure everyone has. Fibroblasts or fibrocytes, right? Fibrocytes are cells that reside in the dermis, both in the papillary and the reticular, the deeper portion of the dermis, and they have the ability to convert into fibroblasts. So from a fibrocyte to a fibroblast, and then the fibroblast, when it's in fibroblast phase, it has the ability to synthesize collagen and elastin and a constituent called glycosaminoglycans. Have you all heard of glycosaminoglycans? Yeah, glycosaminoglycans, which is actually a sugar molecule in the skin that helps to bind to water. It helps to hold water in the skin. If you look at baby skin, right, it has an abundance of glycosaminoglycans, so it's why it's so nice and plump. If you look at someone who's very elderly, not so much so. So even if they drink a lot of water, they're not going to retain a lot of water. And of course, collagen elastin fibers are interwoven like this. You have about 70% collagen to about 30% elastin. When you are able to synthesize one, you're able to synthesize the other. When one degrades, the other degrades. So they kind of go hand in hand. So that's just another benefit of the microcurrent, is that it's able to activate the fibroblast to synthesize collagen, elastin, and glycosaminoglycans for tighter skin, more toned skin, more smooth, plump skin. Gives the skin and the cells the ability to hold on to water much more effectively. So that's just another benefit of microcurrent. And then yet another benefit of microcurrent is that it performs some lymphatic drainage. Now, I know with Shelley, you have the mask, which is phenomenal. So you can just place that over the face, and you don't have to take the two probes like we have here in yet another machine and move them across the skin and all of that. You just place the modality over your face, and it does lymphatic drainage for you. It actually manipulates the lymphatic system, which then drains the lymph. And the lymph in the facial area naturally moves laterally and inferiorly. So it moves out and down, and it goes back to the terminus, back to the circulatory system again. So if you have someone with very puffy skin and a lot of edema, like I have when I wake up in the morning, puffy eyes, puffy face, maybe you've had too much salt the night before, this is really great at draining some of the lymph and sending it back down to where it belongs in the circulatory system, instead of being in the tissue and filling the tissue and creating, you know, edema in the tissue. And then another benefit, and you can talk after in a minute, Shelley, maybe about the masks that you use with the modality, but the other benefit of microcurrent is that you can use it with product, right? And it helps to infuse product through electrophoresis. So as the electricity is moving into the tissue, it picks up some of the particles that also have the benefit to penetrate, depending upon, of course, the molecular structure of the ingredient. But it helps to drive the product deeper than just being in the stratum corneum or just being in maybe, you know, the granulosum. It drives it a little bit deeper than that, and it lasts longer, and you really reap the benefits of the different ingredients. And it also helps to increase circulation. So with the, you know, increased circulation, you have that blood circulation, which brings nutrients and oxygen and water to the tissue that helps to feed and nourish the tissue. So it's really, has a lot of benefits. And how basically microcurrent works is it resonates with the body, like I mentioned before, the body's own natural electrical system. But it helps to stimulate the little mitochondria. We're all familiar with the mitochondria of the cell, right? Because we've all been, we're all estheticians. And what it does is, as that energy penetrates into the cell, it helps to create energy in the cell and for the cell. And of course, the cell works more effectively, just like everything works more effectively, if it has greater energy. I always tell my clients, at least with microcurrent in general, it's almost like if your cell phone battery is dead, or if your cell phone battery is weak, right? You need to recharge it. Right? So if your cells are lacking energy, helping to recharge those cells with microcurrent is one way that you can do it. I was also going to mention something else about microcurrent. It helps to synthesize protein as well. And of course, we're made up of protein, right? Everything, our skin, our nails, our muscles, everything, even our blood is made up of protein. So it helps in the synthesis of protein, in the strengthening of the tissue. So that's just like some of the thing, or, you know, that's a bulk of what microcurrent does, and some of the benefits as well. And then how is it used and how often? Probably Shelley, with this modality, you can talk more, you know, deeply about that.
Yeah. I've never been a huge fan of the traditional microcurrent. I just don't enjoy doing it. So when Tama Research came out with this MeTama, I was super excited to test it, and I was super surprised at the results that I get. It's just a little teeny machine. This is it, an on and off button. It's pretty simple to do. It's all pre-programmed in here. And what you do is you can use a sheet mask. You don't have to. You can actually put the two microcurrent pads on just your face or product on your face and do this, but their sheet mask is so nice. I really like to put this sheet mask on. It's one of the best ones I've ever worked with, to tell you the truth. And there's so much product in here. Like if you're doing this on a client, you can actually put the mask back in here, put it in a baggie and send them home, and they can get 2 to 3 more masks out of it. That's how much product is in here. And it's a simple 10-minute session. I like to do 20 minutes when I'm doing it on myself. But what I have to say is it is everything that you just said, Michele. And aren't I right, you guys? Isn't she incredible with all this technology? It's absolutely amazing to me. But when I get finished doing my session with the MeTama, I just feel like homogenized, like this creamy, milky, dewy look to my skin. It looks and feels more plump. No, it doesn't have a look like super, super tight right off the bat, but I feel, you were talking about, Michele, the drainage. I could feel in my face, I can feel that drainage. And then over time now, I am seeing a toning in my face from this hands-free microcurrent. I love that. And
And which is great too, Shelley, because you don't have to take like with the traditional microcurrent, like for instance, this one I just happen to have here, where you're grabbing each and every muscle, right? In each and every area, you can just place it over your entire face and it works everything from the frontalis all the way down to the masseter and everything in between. So it's you're killing, 15 birds with one stone, so to speak. It's just very fast and it's effective. And then you were also going to mention, Shelley, some of the active ingredients in those phenomenal masks that you have there.
Yeah, I'll mention it and I'll let you talk about it. So there's marine collagen.
Okay, so marine, just to let you all know, just in case you don't, marine collagen helps to penetrate through mostly just the stratum corneum. It maybe doesn't penetrate as deeply as the basal cell zone, but it's a really, really good binder of water. So it attracts water from the air, a little bit like high hyaluronic acid, but high hyaluronic acid is probably more effective in that way. And it also has very calming and soothing properties. So that's a good one.
Vitamin C, which everybody probably knows about.
Right, brightener, antioxidant. It's also a very mild melanogenesis inhibitor. That is why it brightens the skin. And you need vitamin C in your skin in general. Most of it we consume when we synthesize collagen in the skin. But as far as externally, brightening as a melanogenesis inhibitor and a major antioxidant and also healing agent.
Chamomile.
Chamomile, that's one of my favorite essential oils. Very calming, soothing, sedative. It helps to take the red out. So if someone is prone to a lot of erythema, a lot of redness, it helps to calm that down. So that's a good one to have in there.
Yeah, that's one thing I definitely notice after this treatment. If I do have any red, it's completely gone. Calendula.
Calendula, good binder of water and also very soothing.
Jojoba and aloe.
Okay, so we'll start with aloe. Aloe, I like aloe a lot. Aloe is actually made up of 99.5% water. And the other 0.5% is made up of some 20 amino acids. So we know that 20 amino acids rather is the building block to protein, right? It's what protein is made up of. So it's very regenerative. It's also very healing and very soothing. And then you had, whoops. Let's go ahead and put you on mute there. And then you had said, I'm sorry, Shelley, you had said.
Jojoba, aloe, vitamin E.
Jojoba, yes, jojoba, healing, anti-inflammatory. People are sometimes worried about it because they think it's an oil, but it's not really a true oil. It's not very congestive. And it's also very anti-inflammatory. And then you had said, I'm sorry, I missed it.
The last two were vitamin E and nettle extract.
Oh, okay, tocopherol and nettle. Tocopherol, or vitamin E rather, is an antioxidant. It also works really well in conjunction with vitamin A to help battle free radicals. It's super lubricating to the skin. And nettle is rejuvenative. It helps to regenerate. It helps to increase circulation to the area.
So that's the main ingredients. Yeah, that's why it's just my skin feels so incredible afterwards. And it's been interesting because the directions, has you put this pad on your chest, but recently I've been sticking it right up here underneath my jawline for about the last week and a half, and I actually have noticed some toning in that jawline. So I'm not sure why their instructions said here, because this is a much better place to put it, I feel.
Yeah, because I agree too. When you have it right under here, you have it on that platysma, which is a lot closer to the masseter and to the other, and it's just closer, so you're getting more energy, right? Direct energy from here to here, I would guess, than all the way down here.
Yeah. I can actually feel it differently on my face. So yeah, yummy piece of equipment, you guys, even if just for yourself. They made it for retail. I personally think it's a little expensive for retail. But if you want to have something that's hands-free in the treatment room, especially now as you kind of start getting back, this is the route to go. This really is.
And you can add it into, if your client doesn't have contraindications, you can add it into a lot of different treatments, right? As an add-on, even if it's not part of the actual treatment. I think that's a great idea.
I do want to say this, you guys, if you're going to use the mask, this is a dry one right now, but I did notice that in a class that I watched recently, they were stating that you can go ahead and put LED over the top of this. I say no to that. That LED is not going to penetrate through this. So if you see that out there somewhere, don't do it. do
And actually
your
they-
LED separately.
And actually, the interesting thing too, I agree with that, Shelley, because LED can be blocked by something such as a mask, unless it's specifically made to be used with the LED. And anything that contains, metals and other things like that can actually deflect the ray instead of the current actually being able to absorb. So yeah, I agree with that totally.
Awesome. Let's go on to the next one. I mean, I'll quickly say, they say
Contraindications.
Yeah, let me do for we talked about the benefits, how often. They say once a week. I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I use it probably 2 or 3 times a week because I just love it that much. My skin just feels and looks so good from it. And contraindications are going to be your typical microcurrent contraindications, and I'll let Michele go over those.
So that could be kind of the same things as if you were contraindicated to galvanism or galvanic, which would be like metal implants, heart problems, a pacemaker, epilepsy, probably open or broken skin.
Pregnancy,
Did I say pregnancy?
I'm not sure. It just came to my mind. Pregnancy.
Okay, yeah, pregnancy. The typical contraindications that you have with a lot of the galvanic and microcurrent type products and procedures. The big one would be like metal implants and heart problems.
Deborah,
and if someone just has seizures, sorry.
That's okay. I was just going to say, Deborah is asking us how long is a typical session. The unit goes on for 10 minutes. It does a 10-minute cycle, but you can certainly turn it back on again. I do 20 minutes. Personally, when I do it, I do 20 minutes, but 10 minutes just depends on if you're doing it in treatment, how long you want to use it on a client. If you're doing a bunch of other modalities, 10 minutes is plenty.
And it's great, right, Shelley, to add into all of your anti-aging treatments, as whether it's just built into the procedure or it's something that you're going to add into it or they're going to pay extra for, because it really boosts the effects and the efficacy of the treatment.
Definitely. Training, you guys, anything that we give, there's always going to be training with it. Okay, so never worry about worrying about that for sure. I think there's some other questions, but I can't see them. You can use any kind of sheet mask. You don't have to use theirs. I just really like theirs, but you can use just a product. You don't have to use a sheet mask. If using gloves, I think that's just having to do with microcurrent. If you're using gloves, Michele, latex, if you're using the glove technology, you should have latex gloves on your own hands.
If you're using, do you mean if they're using the glove for microcurrent?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Oh, for microcurrent yourself. So you're putting on, and let me ask you before I answer that question, Shelley, does this machine come with the gloves? I have forgotten.
You can get them extra. There's 2 kinds. You can get it with just the pads, or you can get it with the pads and the gloves.
I believe it's fine to use the latex or the vinyl. I would check with, if you're not sure, with the manufacturer. I don't think you're using your body's own energy to, distribute energy. So I think it's fine to use latex, but for this modality, am not 100% sure.
I got them and tried them. I think it's very awkward to do on yourself, on a client. Yeah, I think it's fabulous, but I haven't looked into it enough to see whether they require gloves underneath the microcurrent gloves or not. And then somebody's asking me, go ahead, Michele.
Oh, no, go ahead.
Nope.
Go ahead.
You first, because
I was going to say, I know with like other modalities, unlike this one, you can wear latex gloves underneath, but I'm just not sure about this one.
Yeah, same answer here. So we'll check that out. If somebody specifically wants to know that, if you can email me afterwards, that would be good. And then the cost is $1,345, and that includes shipping. That's why I feel like it's a little high for selling to your clients. Yeah. But definitely worth investing in.
Can you bring me a napkin?
Yeah.
But I'm going to close there you go. Yeah, I think I think this would be great. Just I'm sitting here thinking up all these ideas for this modality to add in as an add-on to your anti-aging treatments, to add into treatments when people have edema. They come in with a really puffy face and you kind of want to decrease that edema. That would be a great time to add it in. And maybe just to kind of factor it into the regular anti-aging. It would increase the price and also the efficacy.
Yeah, I also always think about like putting modalities together or doing more things at one time. So what about the girls that do lash extensions? You know, you could be doing your lash extensions while you have this on. I don't think if you didn't use a sheet mask, if you just use product and the pads, you can certainly be doing this at the same time. So always ways of adding things on and making a little more income and making happier clients. So
Exactly. And right. And giving them greater results, which they're always looking for.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
So excellent.
Should we
And
move on to the
let's,
next?
you want to go on to the next one? Okay. And for anyone who is coming in, if you can, please place yourself on mute. That would be excellent. So the top 3 recommended modalities. So this is what Shelley and I have come up with. And I know, you know, we could probably add an extra one onto the bottom of this, but let's start with, excuse me, let's start with LED light therapy. So I'm sure a lot of you already use LED and you have your modality from Shelley that you love, right? Let's talk a little bit about what kind of LED is. It uses light energy to create a biological effect on the skin. So we're going to take a look. I'm just going to move this forward for just a minute so we can take a look at the electromagnetic spectrum here. So when we talk about, and this, by the way, of course, is the electromagnetic spectrum. This is all of the different types of energy that comes from the sun. And we use specifically, when we use LED and we use LED modalities, the manufacturers create that with this right here, with the visible light spectrum, right? Not ultraviolet, not X-ray, sometimes infrared, sometimes there's some infrared mixed in there as well. But generally utilizing blue, green, amber, orange or orange red, and maybe some infrared. So it's important, and we're going to talk about later too, the effects of the blue LED, because I know a lot of people had asked me about the damaging effects of the blue LED. But just keep this in mind. So we're using just the visible spectrum of light. So let's go back here again. And LED, so uses light energy to create a biological effect on the skin. So it's important to know the shorter the ray, right, the shorter the nanometer, the more superficial it is. The longer the nanometer, the deeper it goes into the skin. So when you think about blue, blue is the shortest, and green's a little longer, amber's a little longer, red's a little longer, and so on and so forth. And basically when these different spectrum of light penetrates the skin, it's looking to resonate or bond with a color molecule in the skin. There's lots of different types of color molecules in the skin. So when using something like blue LED, right, blue LED specifically bonds with a color molecule called porphyrin. I don't know, has anyone heard of porphyrin? I can't see anybody, so I don't know if you've heard of porphyrin. So porphyrins are specific color molecules that are produced and made within the bacteria, like staph bacteria, propionibacteria, you've got porphyrin. And so what happens when the blue LED penetrates the skin, the porphyrins absorb that blue LED and do something very interesting. It releases oxygen. And when it releases oxygen, well, we all know, right, that both staph bacteria and propionibacteria are anaerobic. They hate oxygen. So if you increase oxygen at that level, you kill off that bacteria. And so blue LED works like that. And then, of course, we've got all of the other, nanometers. I do teach a 1 full day course just on LED, just on light therapy. But also, it's important to buy really good quality modalities, like what Shelley has, because you've researched them, you've tested them. A lot of people have tested them, and you know that they work. But yeah, does anybody have maybe a little question about just LED in general? Or Shelley, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, I just kind of want to, many of you fellow estheticians out there have my LEDs already. And I've been on quite a journey since 2003 with LED, and I fell in love with it. I took your class probably 12 years ago, I think, Michele.
Yeah, and we change it over time, but yes, you did get that big bulk, the foundation.
So all the companies I've worked with, lovely companies, very nice pieces of equipment, but I got frustrated with that 30-minute time, to get results. It's in an hour treatment, we don't have 30 minutes to have the client laying underneath a panel. So that's when I got in touch with Illuminate. He's a fellow who's kind of like this mad scientist. And we started working on a new LED panel that would take less time. And it actually took us 2 years to develop this. We didn't just throw a bunch of LEDs, on a piece of material and say, here you go. This was a major thing. And now our panel is a 5-minute treatment time. Oh, well, now you can all afford time-wise to put that into every single treatment. And it's super powerful. I knew, because I've used so many LEDs, I knew the minute we had the prototype, the first time I used it, I knew, like, yep, this is it, we've got it. So
you got the results immediately.
Immediately, it was just absolutely amazing to me. I've always offered LED in every single treatment, but I never did the 30 minutes because just couldn't do that. So it was always about 10 to 15 minutes and I knew I wasn't getting the full benefit of it. Now I can offer it with 5 minutes and get the full benefit. So it's really phenomenal.
Which is super important because, if you have to sit there for 30 minutes to get the effects, that's a lot of time, right? And your client may not have all of that time. Or if you feel like, oh, I'll just cut it off at 10 or 15 minutes, but they're not getting the energy, right, that the skin needs to have that biological effect, then you're kind of wasting time and, the client's wasting their money. So that's what's great about the modality that you have, Shelley, that it doesn't take a lot of time. The price point is awesome and it's super effective. And can you talk about the colors that you have there in the modalities?
Yeah, well, I actually chose to just have red in this panel because if you figure you've got 1,800 LEDs and I start splitting up the colors between red and blue and infrared and, all the other colors if you want, then I start taking down the effectiveness of each color, and then we're going to have to spend more time underneath it. So that's why I chose for the panel to be just red. We can make it for you in just blue and just green, but we decided not to do that. We made the smaller discs that have 300 LEDs in them. That's a lot of LEDs in a handheld disc. They're extremely powerful. So for the people that maybe you want to have green, but you don't want to spend the money for a full green, you can have a green disc and a red panel so that you're getting both colors on you.
And also too, Shelley, we talked about why you want to do preferably just one color instead of like multiple colors flashing, because it changes the wave actually. Each one of those colors resonates with a very specific nanometer, which equals the length and the strength of a wave. So if you have like red and blue and green, you've got all these different waves coming into play and you completely change the nanometer, you completely change the wave. So what are you really getting? Are you getting the blue? Are you getting the red? It changes it because they bounce off each other. And I think it's a great idea. And I've heard that from physicists that I've worked with before at shows that, no, you want to use one color at a time. That's what I've always heard, and I researched and I realized that is the reason why. Because if you don't, it changes. So what you think you're getting, maybe you're not.
Yeah, you're not getting the full benefit. That's a great way of explaining it, Michele. I love the way you teach. We're probably, the questions are coming in and I'll kind of try to look up there and answer some of them, but what we'll do at the end is Michele and I will go over them and I'll make a document with answers to all these great questions coming in, and then I'll email it out to everybody so that you can see the answers to those. Because we'll be here for hours if we try to answer every question. But these good questions that are coming in, you guys, you will get the answers to those.
And if it's a short question too, we could probably answer it at the end.
As
long as you don't. Okay, I was going to say, as long as you don't let me talk too much, Shelley.
Here's a sign. Hush. On to the next thing. Okay. Somebody's asking, why do some clients get headaches after LED? I think that's actually a really good question. Can you speak to that?
And I've had that too, both in the physician's clinic and also my own clinic. Some people are very sensitive to light in general. That's why one reason you want to make sure that they don't have eye sensitivity is one of the contraindications, or glaucoma is another indication for LED, that is, epilepsy, because even though you may not see the flickering of the light so much, it's flickering and your eye and your brain sees that. So if they're prone to headaches or even claustrophobia, but if they're prone to headaches, might not be I mean, you can pad down their eyes really well, you know, have the glasses on, the visible deflecting glasses and the pads and all that. But if it still creates a headache after trying that, you know, you may have to go to one of the smaller panels that Shelley was talking about rather than the full face, you know, maybe just one of the smaller ones so that you're not getting a lot of that energy in the eye. But that is not super common, but it does happen, especially if people have migraines. So pad down the eyes really well. Make sure they don't have any contraindications.
Okay, let's go on to microcurrent modality. Well, we kind of talked about that from the very beginning. So
yeah, we did, right? And here we have it right down again. So tones muscles. So we know that the microcurrent is a very fast moving current. It resonates with the, just to recap, it resonates with the body's own electrical system. It won't cause, you know, if you don't have contraindications, it's not like something that can electrocute someone. It does help to, I want to say, recharge the mitochondria by 500 times. So the amount of energy that the mitochondria is releasing into the cell is increased. It's been found in studies, increased by 400 or 500 times, which is a lot, because that's a lot more energy for your skin to do what it needs to do, right? What does your skin need to do? Take in nutrients, remove toxins, cell division, and all of those good things. So that's important. So just to recap, tones muscles, activates fibroblasts, which produces collagen elastin, glycosaminoglycans, aids in lymphatic drainage to help diffuse and get rid of edema and puffiness. Basically, that's the same thing. Helps to infuse product, like with the mask Shelley had told you about, and increases circulation. And then ultrasonic modalities. I think this is a good one to talk about because it is very confusing. Ultrasonic, ultrasound, sound waves. So ultrasonic modalities, I'll read this first and then we'll talk about it, uses sound energy and aids in increased circulation and product penetration. Like what we have, what you have too, Shelley, the My Skin Buddy, right? It uses ultrasonic energy.
yes.
Right, okay. So let's turn the page here and just take a look at and understand the difference between ultrasound, ultrasonic, biomechanical vibration. They all use sound energy.
So Michele, just to kind of be clear, like an ultrasonic spatula is going to be your ultrasonic, and a My Skin Bee would be ultrasound, right? So that's how you're explaining the difference of these two.
Not really, actually.
Really?
But close.
Okay. Okay, good.
So ultrasound but it you know, it's used interchangeably. People use it interchangeably so often that it becomes kind of one and the same. But technically speaking and physics-wise speaking, it's different. So like if you go into, say, the plastic surgeon or dermatologist, right, and they're using Ulthera or HIFU, which is high intensity focused ultrasound, it's a lot deeper and it's more focused like this. Rather than being scattered, it's more focused right on an area. So it really heats up the dermis. We're talking about like the ultrasound right now. It really heats up the dermis, which in return activates fibroblasts. And we know what fibroblasts make, right? Collagen elastin and glycosaminoglycans. Whereas ultrasonic, and again, they all use sound waves, so super confusing. Ultrasonic, if you could see my cursor here, this is what ultrasonic looks like if you could see it moving. Right? That's more what it looks like. And even over here a little bit. Ultrasound is right in this range, right about here, 20 kilohertz and maybe up a little bit. And then it gets to a certain point where it gets into megahertz. Now, let me just explain, and not to get too technical, I do talk about this in my class, but I don't want to throw us all off track and take up a bunch of time. But just to make it really simple, hertz means when energy moves, it goes from one cycle up and down in 1 second. That would be 1 hertz. Up and down in 2 times in 1 second would be 2 hertz. If it did this, 3 times in 1 second, it would be 3 hertz. Here's the thing, the slower the energy moves, like if it moves in hertz, you could see it over here, right? It's moving pretty slowly. You could see that energy, it's moving pretty slowly, but it's also moving a little bit deeper. And if you're thinking about modalities on the skin, those modalities that utilize hertz and sound waves move deeper on the skin. When you think about kilohertz Kilohertz means 1,000 per second. So 1,000 of these per second would be 1 kilohertz. 2,000 up and down per second would be 2 kilohertz, and so on and so on and so forth. The faster, remember this, the faster the energy moves on the skin, the more superficial it is. And then of course you get up into megahertz. I'm sure some of you probably, and if you've taken my classes, you know, megahertz means a million of these cycles going up and down. So it's moving real fast, right? You could see that here, really, really fast. And the faster it moves, the faster that energy moves on the skin, the more superficial it is. It's not so deep anymore, it's more superficial. If you think about it like this, like a boat or a speedboat, moving really fast on the water, it kind of hydroplanes. It's not really even in the water, right? But if the boat is moving really slowly, the bottom of the boat is deeper. The same with all types of energy, actually, even LED. Okay, so here's the thing. Ultrasound devices operate with frequency from about 20 kilohertz. Remember, kilohertz is in the thousands, right? Up to usually about 40. And because of that, they are deeper in the skin. They move slower. You can see this, right? It moves slower. And also in the modalities that they use in medicine, they also create more focus. So they're just using a few of the waves rather than the full spectrum of waves. So if they're just very focused, it's just hitting one area. Now, ultrasonic is different. Ultrasonic devices operate often with frequencies above 40 kilohertz and all the way up, even into megahertz. Actually, often into megahertz. Like you've heard of the ultrasonic with 3 megahertz, right? Or 4 megahertz or 5 megahertz. That means millions. That's like up in here. So the thing is ultrasonic devices operate usually at the higher end of kilohertz into megahertz. So they move more superficially on the skin, not as deep in the skin. They're faster, and they're also more scattered rather than being focused. So to make this understandable, more understandable, hopefully I'm making it understandable, is that ultrasonic devices like my Skin Buddy is really good at increasing circulation and helping to penetrate product into the superficial tissue. That's the ultrasonic. The ultrasound, like what the docs use and the nurses use, like I mentioned before, HIFU and Ulthera, I'm sure you've heard of that, right? It's deeper. It's deeper in the tissue. It's deeper in the dermis. It heats the dermis, right? And it forces the dermis, it forces the fibroblast to produce more collagen elastin for tightening and for toning. Now, biomechanical vibration is what you have in, Shelley has in this. Does anyone have the curve? I love the curve. It has so many different technologies in one, the curve. And we'll talk about some of it. It has radio frequency, it has LED, it has
ultrasound.
Biomechanical, right? Ultrasound, biomechanical, right? So it does have some of the deeper ultrasound in this as well. But it also has the biomechanical vibration, which means that if you're thinking about sound waves, because these are all sound waves, it moves slower like this. So you can hear it, right? And you can also feel it. It vibrates, like zzz, 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 it vibrates. Does that make sense? I don't know, Shelley, did I make sense?
I love this, you guys. Okay, so it's interesting. This is really great. It's interesting for me because the biomechanical vibration is one when I use it on a client for the first time. The next time I see them, they'll go, "Ooh, what was that thing you used on me? I could feel it, like all the way driving home. I could feel that." So this is a great explanation of what's going on here, you know?
Yes, and this one that you have here, Shelley, the curve, it has actually a couple of different types. It utilizes a couple of different types of sound waves. It actually utilizes ultrasound, which goes deeper, which causes almost like a light implosion of the interstitial fluids in the deeper fatty tissue so that it can help to destroy by causing leakage of the fat cell. So in this curve, you have it on pulsate, I think. You have both the ultrasound and you have the biomechanical vibration, which is why I love it, and the LED, right? And also you have, not infrared, excuse me, a radio frequency.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. So
yeah, there's a lot going on for the face and for the body.
Yeah, exactly. So let me ask you this. So it sounds like to me, estheticians really are more supposed to use ultrasonic versus ultrasound. If it's going deeper, you know, we're not supposed to be going that deep. So am I correct on that?
Yes, yeah. And I'm pretty sure, I'd have to look at the specs on my Skin Buddy. I think my Skin Buddy uses 3 megahertz. Am I right, Shelley?
I believe so,
3
yes.
megahertz? Yeah, so then if you're thinking of that, right, it's in here. Megahertz is in the millions. So remember, the faster that sound moves, the more superficial it is. It doesn't mean it's bad. It doesn't mean it's not as good. It's just different. Ultrasonic is more made for when you're talking about beauty equipment anyway. It's made for the infusion of product into the skin and also increased circulation more than it's made for the deeper penetration and the heating of the dermis. Because believe me, if you use the really deep ultrasound on your skin, it's hot, like really, really hot. Like it can almost burn hot. You feel the heat. So I think with the My Skin Buddy and some of the pieces of equipment like that, you're utilizing the ultrasonic.
My guess is some of these companies are just naming them and not, how am I trying to say this? Not really understanding that explanation that you're, saying to us right now.
And I think too, it's kind of an interchangeable word, right? Ultrasonic, people think, well, it's the process of using ultrasound, is it? And ultrasound is just what we hear. Well, we don't actually hear ultrasound most of the time unless you have really good hearing or you're an animal, because our ears can't hear at that frequency, that pitch. So you're right, Shelley. I think a lot of people are they just kind of umbrella it, right? Slump it together in one bucket. But really, technically speaking, right, physics wise, that is the difference between when you're using like My Skin Buddy, which is great. We love it to infuse product and increase circulation. But it's not like the deep ultrasounds that the docs use to really heat up the tissue. And you can feel the tissue heating up and forcing the fibroblast to produce more collagen elastin.
Okay, great explanation.
Okay. Any small question there, or do you want to wait till the end?
Yeah, we're good. There's no questions that have come in. So let's go on to the next slide.
Okay, so effective modalities for acne and hyperpigmentation. So Shelley and I picked out a couple of things here. So for acne, you can use in your full treatments, either blue or green LED. The reason for that is because both blue and green are side by side on the spectrum. Blue is a little bit shorter in length, green is a little bit longer, but they're side by side, they lie adjacent to each other. So they really have a lot of the same benefits. And remember the benefit we talked about before with the blue, some of the benefits with the green. It's absorbed by the porphyrin, which is the color molecule in the bacteria. And when the porphyrin absorbs that energy, it releases oxygen, and oxygen helps to destroy the bacteria. I know high frequency is an old-fashioned tool, but I still have it in the clinic. I don't know if you do, Shelley.
Can we go back for 1 second?
Sure.
Can we go back for 1 second? So in my experience, I'm going to let you speak to the technical, but in my experience, when I started using blue way back in the day, I could never get acne cleared up. I could clear up what was already on the surface, but I could never get it to go away for any length of time. And when about 3 years after that, I started adding green in, and I started noticing more long-term results in clearing the acne, because I feel like I was getting down to a deeper level, killing that bacteria before it had a chance to form.
Exactly. Green is longer. If blue is this long, green is that long, right? So if this is like the epidermis and the papillary dermis, this is the epidermis all the way to the fatty tissue and everything in between. So you're right. So green is longer. Green also has a lot of the same properties as blue. So you're getting the same benefits that you get with the blue in general, especially if the nanometers are very similar. Because when you have green, right, you've got a whole spectrum from this side all the way to that side. And when you start to move this way, you get into the yellow, which then the benefits are different. But I think with the green that you have, Shelley, it's not too far from the nanometers of the blue. So you get a lot of the same benefits, which is phenomenal, because green also does other great things too, like helps to break up some of the melanosomes that cause different types of hyperpigmentation.
Yeah. Yeah, I see great results with the pigmentation in this green. In years past, I didn't. People were telling me green's great for pigmentation, and I never saw any great results because I don't think I had a powerful enough unit back in the day. Now with this small handheld unit, I do it on the back of my hands, and it's clearing up all that pigmentation of my 60-year-old hands. You know, so
yeah,
it works really well.
It's amazing. I love to use the green. And again, depending upon how, remember the spectrum of light, it's a wide spectrum. So the spectrum here for green and the spectrum here for blue, if it's closer, like right in here, right, they have a lot of the same benefits. If you have a longer green, then it's going to be more like the yellow, which is on this side of it.
Great, great, great. Okay, now on to high frequency.
Yeah, so I don't know if anyone still uses high frequency. I use a lot of LED and light therapy, but I still have the high frequency in the clinic. I still think it's beneficial. It works differently, obviously, than the blue and the green and the LEDs. How high frequency basically works, in short, to make it short and simple, is it either emits an argon, right, which is the purple, or it emits a neon, which is the orange. Some people have one, some the other. They're pretty much very similar. And when you use it on the skin, now I have an electrode here, but I don't have it plugged in, but when you use it on the skin, right, what happens is the argon and the neon gas are emitted from the high frequency, moving in the direction of the skin. And as that light energy, or that I should say the gas, it's actually a gas, moves in the direction of the skin, it splits the oxygen molecules in the general area. It actually splits them in the air. So oxygen in the air is bound like this, right? O2, it splits them like that. So now you've got O1s in the air around the bacteria, but oxygen can't stay as an O1. So it immediately binds back up with a couple of others to form 3, which is O3, which is ozone, right? We know O3 is ozone. And that's being pushed into the skin. That's being forced into the skin with the modality. So when the oxygen comes in contact with the bacterium, which is either the Propionibacterium or the staph bacterium, it destroys that bacterium. It destroys the bacteria because both of those types of bacteria don't like oxygen. They're anaerobic. They die at the site of oxygen. So I think for really superficial lesions, little papules or very superficial pustules, the high frequency is fine. But for really, really deep pustules or deep sebaceous cysts, it doesn't affect them. The high frequency moves, remember we talked energy moves really fast, it's superficial. If energy moves slower, it's deeper. The high frequency is too superficial, usually, to affect deeper reticular sebaceous cysts.
Michele, somebody's asking about cystic acne. I would assume this is not going to necessarily work because you need it to go deeper.
Yeah, so on cystic acne, hands down, the green or the blue, but the green works really, really well. All of the tests that we've done and the doctors have done and others that work, the green and the blue is awesome for sebaceous cysts, which often contain staph bacteria and not just propionic, but nevertheless, they're anaerobic. So that oxygen from the green LED, or I shouldn't say from the green LED, but the oxygen created by the use of the green LED is the best.
Okay, on to our next, salicylic and mild non-abrasive exfoliations.
Yeah, so salicylic acid and other, non-abrasive exfoliations, like maybe glycolic acid or lactic acid or any of the other maybe AHAs that you use. Basically, when you think about a pimple or a sebaceous cyst, every pustule and sebaceous cyst starts with a clogged follicle, right? If you don't have clogged follicles, then you're not going to have breakouts. So the main goal, even if an individual has a hormonal imbalance, like an androgen imbalance that can cause acne, the main goal for us as estheticians is to clear the follicle. So there's not a plug in the mouth of the follicle. There's no plug in the mouth of the follicle. So the oil and the sweat can come out and the oxygen can go in and everything is, is good. So if you have a lot of congestion in the skin, you could use products, cleansers, maybe a mask or a toner or something like that that contains salicylic acid or other AHAs. Salicylic I like for really thick, oily skin because it's not just exfoliating, but it also helps to control oil secretion, break up oil secretion, and it's also germicidal. And then also other modalities that emit O2. I'm not sure, Shelley, do you have another modality that we didn't talk about recently that emits O2, oxygen?
No.
Okay.
Just the oxygen infusion machine, but
Okay, yeah. So any time you use a modality that emits oxygen, and that is one reason why when we even use benzoyl peroxide, right? We use benzoyl peroxide on the skin, which I think is maybe a little too drying. Some people like it, but it attracts oxygen from the air to itself, and that oxygen then helps to dry out the infection. Unfortunately, most of the time it also dries out the skin, right? When you're using benzoyl peroxide. So for anti-hyperpigmentation, green LED is really good, not just for acne, but also hyperpigmentation, because the length of that particular wave binds really well with the melanosomes. Now, the melanosomes are not the melanocytes. They're not the ones that create the color. You don't want to touch those cells. But when you have a lot of color in the skin, right, those little melanosome colors in the skin or color containers or holders, they resonate with the green LED. And the green LED bonds to the little melanosomes, little vacuoles, and scatters the energy. That's why when doctors use laser, right, they're using a laser that utilizes the same nanometer as green LED, because it binds to melanosomes and it helps to scatter the color. It might do it faster than green LED, but green LED will still do it with time.
Interesting.
And then, yeah, I really like the two. And then of course, if you've got someone with a lot of solo lentigo or other types of hyperpigmentation, I do have a class that I teach on hyperpigmentation, utilizing all of these different things. But as far as melanogenesis inhibitors, those are, if you're not familiar, are ingredients that slow down the making of melanin. So if you slow down the making of melanin, the brown spots on the skin, like I have here, solar lentigo, you could see, right? The melanocyte slows down and the color goes back to normal because that melanocyte is not so hyperactive anymore, producing the color so quickly any longer. And also for hyperpigmentation, you want to use products with antioxidants. Like we mentioned, Shelley mentioned vitamin C, vitamin A, vitamin E, because when you have hyperpigmentation, it usually starts with free radical damage. That's where it begins. So if you're using products on the skin that contain antioxidants, it will help to prevent the free radical damage from the beginning. And then if you have a product line that uses DNA repair enzymes, that would be good because it helps to lend enzymes to DNA so DNA can actually repair itself. They have a product line out now that is phenomenal with DNA repair enzymes in it. And I'm sure they're going to be producing a lot more. Does anyone have any quick, or do you see any quick questions maybe, Shelley, I can answer?
No, we're just all talking about who's signing up for which class of yours.
Okay. At the back there is, and I know Shelley is offering a good discount too. And at the back there's some information.
Yeah.
If you're in this class today, thank you. I can't see the chat.
That's okay.
Thank you.
I'm taking care of it over here as much as possible.
So yeah, I think it's really good because when you really have a deep understanding of the modalities and the physiology of the skin and how they work together, it really empowers you. And then you feel really comfortable about all of these different things. So how many modalities are too many for one service?
I love this
question. What did we say?
So before you start talking about it, I just have to tell you guys a story. This was a couple of years ago. An esthetician flew into my training center down in Capistrano Beach from out of state. And she wanted to see, she wanted to feel everything I had, every piece of equipment. So we decided to do a treatment using every single piece of equipment I have. And I said to her before we started, well, this could go two ways. Your face may just fall off tomorrow, or you may look absolutely fabulous.
Yeah.
And I was a little concerned as we were doing the treatment, but she left looking really good. And I got a text the next day, oh my gosh, Shelley, I look fabulous. So no, it's not something I do on a regular basis with, anybody, but I like to use a lot of different modalities on people. Maybe I won't use them for as long a period of time as I would if I was just using one. But for me, it's kind of like when you go to the gym and cross training. There's not just one machine for the biceps. There's a lot of different things. And that's why I like to use multiple modalities on people. But yes, we can get carried away with too many of them. Okay, Michele.
Yeah, and I think it's great too when you're using different modalities that do different things. I think if you were to if you were to use a really deep ultrasound or HIFU and then come in with radio frequency, that would be so redundant, right? Because they pretty much do the same thing. But I totally agree with Shelley. If you have a piece of equipment like microcurrent, and then you come in with something else like ultrasonic, and then that's totally fine.
An LED with it.
Exactly, yeah. That's totally fine. As long as I don't have any contraindications, I do the same thing in my treatments as well. So we said it depends on which modalities you use and what your goal is. So it's always, of course, we know, important to gain the client's goal for what they want, what they need, not necessarily our goal for them, but what their goal is, and to kind of ascertain that.
Let me speak to one more thing, Michele. I also have found throughout the years that everybody's body responds differently to different modalities. So you want to keep good records. I might use one piece of equipment 1 month, and the next month a similar but different piece of equipment. And I might go, oh, they responded better last month to that. So let me make note of it and I'll use this piece of equipment on them. Does that make sense to you guys? Because just like it, go back to the gym, just like in the gym, sometimes you respond better to certain pieces of equipment. So I just wanted to put that in there.
No, I totally agree. Yeah, keeping notes is super, super important. I know for those estheticians that work in a medical office, it's not only important, but it's your legal obligation. But I think even if you don't, keeping the notes, because if you go back, you might forget, or you might not, remember they had a reaction. And yes, I agree with that 100%. So don't use two similar modalities in the same treatment. That would mean like if you were going to do maybe something like, hydrodermabrasion and then microdermabrasion. You don't really need to do that. That's kind of redundant, right? You would do one or the other. You might do maybe microderm and then utilize My Skin Buddy and help to infuse product afterwards. Or if you do have the hydrodermabrasion machine, you would use that instead. But probably not both in the same treatment anyway. Make sure the skin is not sensitive and has no contraindications. That's kind of a given. Do you have anything to add to this, Shelley?
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm writing back to somebody right now. No, I think we've done it.
Okay, perfect.
Next slide, yeah.
So which modalities won't go out of style and which are most important? I think, won't go out of style. I know a lot of estheticians, especially if you're new and out of school, of course, you're using the steamer, right? You learn to use the steamer. Some of my treatments, I don't use the steamer and some I do. It just depends on and I know that's, Shelley, you were saying you don't really use the steamer because there's so many other great pieces of equipment that can do the same thing better.
Yeah.
Magnification lamp, we all need that, or magnification glasses so we could see the skin. Especially with me, with my bad eyesight as I get older, that's super necessary. Skin analyzer, and then high frequency. I think that's just something good to keep around. They're not, expensive, and it's good to have as a backup. And then ultrasonic spatula, because you can do so much with the ultrasonic spatula. You can clean the skin in place of the steamer, or together or after the steamer, right? You can infuse products. I think with the one that you have, Shelley, you could infuse both water-loving and oil-loving products.
You can.
Yes.
Yeah, and like I said a little bit earlier, it's always the first piece of equipment I have people use. I use it in every single treatment. I don't consider it an add-on. I will take every single cleanser off with it. Now my cleanser is just a little bit deeper of a cleanse. I take all my enzymes off with it. That really has nothing to do with making the enzyme more effective. It has to do with helping to get that enzyme off the face a little easier. Then you can do your extractions with it, which is fabulous. Those sound waves are going to go in and loosen the debris from that pore wall. Sometimes it won't come out right away. Lots of times it does, but if it doesn't, when you start to do manual, it just pours right out. And then, yes, driving product deeper into the skin. So that's one of my favorite kind of all around pieces of equipment. So I think it won't go out of style.
Yeah, and good for every client, right? Most people don't have contraindications. They benefit from it. It's super multifaceted. You can get so much, and the price point is good. And I add it into all of my treatments too. Unless they have very, very cystic acne with a lot of crusting and scabbing and potential bleeding, maybe not, but otherwise I do. Most important, it really depends on the treatment goal and the client's skin. There's no set answer for this question. It just depends on what you're doing, what you want to achieve. Like for anti-aging, you might want to go with the microcurrent and red LED. And of course the My Skin Buddy and even the spatula. So you can really layer the different modalities as long as it's not an overkill and it doesn't cause inflammation. What do you think, Shelley?
Definitely. And I think it's an answer. We can't really answer that because, are you working more on acne clients, more on anti-aging clients? What's your clientele? That kind of thing. What's your age group? That's why I try to find pieces of equipment that aren't going to break the piggy bank, so that you can afford to have more pieces of equipment in your treatment room so you're ready for whatever clients, lays down on your table.
And now, like Marian had mentioned, if you're going to do house calls, it's also easy to put the equipment, right? It just right in a bag and take it with you. It's not like having a big stack or anything that you can't really take along with you or push along with you.
Yeah, everything is cordless nowadays. Back in the day when we all started, there was cords going all over our treatment rooms. This is so lovely not to have all those cords anymore.
Yeah, you can get the same effect without having the cords. It's easier to maneuver. It's easier to hold. Yeah, so I definitely think those are a lot of pluses there. But I agree, it really depends upon what you're trying to achieve. In an acne treatment, you're going to use totally different modalities, right? Or machines than you would in an anti-aging treatment or in a hyperpigmentation treatment.
Yeah.
So definitely. You need to find that out. Yeah. Is the galvanic machine, someone asked, still used, and is it competitive? It probably should be, and I'll tell you why it is and why it's not used too much anymore. You probably already all know this. I know in Europe they use galvanic a lot. In the States, not so much. It is time consuming. It can be confusing to use. You have to hold a probe. Your client has to have one behind his or her shoulder. And it can take up a lot of time. But why I think it should be used for certain things anyhow, is it helps in deep penetration of water-loving ingredients and gives one of the best deep cleaning effects possible through saponification. If you're familiar, or maybe you're not familiar with galvanic is all about opposites attract, likes repel. It's all about magnetism. I do have a class on galvanic that goes together with ultrasonic and high frequency, but it's not something I can explain in 1 second. It is, there's a lot involved in it. But once you have it down, once you know it, then I think it is a good machine. But again, there are lots of other machines that can do the same thing today, like this spatula. It's very, it's a different energy. It's a sound energy versus galvanism. But it can, could still somewhat take the place. Why do many not use galvanic? Because it takes time to learn the modality and to use it correctly. And it, like I mentioned, it can be time consuming. I don't know if anyone uses it, but if you do, it's a good way to penetrate water-loving ingredients. Anything you want to add to this, Shelley?
I'm so sorry. I was answering questions and not paying a lot of attention to you, I'll be honest.
It's okay. Any questions about this, feel free to email me.
Not a great multitasker when it comes to Zoom.
No, I'm the same way. That's why I'm not answering the questions on chat. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to talk at the same time. But yes, I think with the spatula that Shelley has, even though you're not using galvanism, you're still able to soften up sebum. You're still able to penetrate product, right? Infuse product, both water and loving, oil-loving ingredients. You have to remember one thing too, that the epidermis is more oil-loving than it is water-loving. It's more oil-loving. And the dermis is more water-loving. So getting water-loving ingredients into the epidermis is not as easy as just applying it there. That is why using that spatula is important. So this here, what is the difference between the LEDs? I pulled this just because I had a lot of questions from my own students and classes that I'm giving. Every Monday we do a class. And a lot of people ask about blue LED, and now we're sitting in front of the computer all the time, in front of Zoom. Our kids are in front of Zoom, you know, and with our cell phones. And it's been found, right, that cell phones and computers especially emit blue light. So what's the difference between blue light that we use to treat, let's say, acne, and blue light that we're getting from the computer screen? Here's the thing. Okay, so look at this up here. This is just a small part of the electromagnetic spectrum. Remember, I showed you this. This is the full range of the electromagnetic spectrum. All the different types of energies that come from the sun, from gamma rays all the way to radio frequency and everything in between. But this right here just shows the visible spectrum and also the ultraviolet spectrum, because they're so closely related. So here, of course, is the eye, right? And there's the macule, you know, can cause sometimes, doctors are now saying, yeah, maybe it's possible that staring at the screen. Well, I know for a fact my eyes have been ruined from my cell phone. When I look up and around the room, I see, you know, everything's blurry. So I actually have my glasses. I brought them and I left them somewhere that is not here. But I bought online some glasses that actually blocks everything from blue all the way through infrared. So if you're worried about, you know, getting too much of the blue or too much of the energy into your eye and it causing destruction over time, you might want to think about buying the glasses that help to filter out the blue. Here's the thing. So when you're using blue LED for the skin, right, you're usually using it within a range of about 450 to 490. It's longer, right? You can see it's longer than like 4 would be or 420 would be. Remember, the longer the nanometer, the deeper it goes, but the less heating and the less stimulating it will be on the body or on the eyes. But if you have blue light, which they are saying now that blue light emitted from your computer is more along the lines of like 390 to about 430. That's super close to ultraviolet radiation, right? That borders ultraviolet radiation. There is actually, you can't see it here, but there is actually a visible violet as well before you go into ultraviolet radiation. We know we can't see ultraviolet radiation, but it's there and it can be damaging. So the blue light that's emitted from your computer, even if it's a small amount, we're always looking at the computer, is usually in the range of about 400, 390, I would say, if I'm remembering correctly, up to about 420. That's, you know, over a period. Now, if your blue LED is in that range, your blue LED that you use for the face is in that range, well, we're only using it anyhow for what, like 10 minutes, right? 15, 20 minutes. But if you're looking at your computer, if you're like me, you're looking at it all day, every day these days, because I'm not teaching in the classroom, I'm teaching online. So I think, and I bought them and I can't reach them. They're way over there, but LED glasses, you can get them from like $10 or $15 on Amazon. And generally, if you're in my classes now, you'll see me wearing them. I should be wearing them now. Do you have anything to add to this at all, Shelley?
Wow, no, that's really good to know. That's not a question that's ever been brought up to me. So this is all new and fabulous information for me. That's for sure.
And it's super new to me too. I had a couple of people ask me, I don't know if Christy is here today, but she asked me in class a couple of weeks ago, and I did even more research on it. And that's what I came up with. I knew sort of intuitively that's what the situation was, but I wanted to confirm that, yeah, the blue LED that's being emitted from the computer, the rays are shorter and they're more damaging. So you can get those glasses online if you're worried.
So we're getting a question, what are the cons about looking at this all day long? What are the effects?
That is what is, I think, really new. And even talking to a couple of the doctors I know that are ophthalmologists, they say, we're just getting things in right now. There's not a lot of studies behind it. I kind of intuitively thought that, along with my teaching partner, Maria Lorenzi. I know, Shelley, you know her, Sedesco teacher, years ago, that this was going to be a problem because of the radiation. And it's like, oh, okay, now it's a problem. But when you ask the doctors and the eye doctors, they'll say, yeah, the patients are coming in with their vision seems to be degrading faster, or like with me, when I look up around the room, my eyes are more blurry. Could it cause macular degradation or issues? Possible. They say it's possible, but the studies aren't in. So for me to be just to kind of be proactive, I just bought the glasses. They're like $15. And they actually help me because when I'm done with the computer and I look around the room, I don't see blurry anymore. I don't remember the name of them, but I could always send you an email if you're interested. They look like just regular glasses. They're not odd or weird. At first I was wearing my laser glasses and I'm like, this is ridiculous. I just need to buy, some glasses that help to block and I know you could probably go to like Best Buy and places and get a screen to place over your computer, but I'm not real familiar with that.
Awesome. Okay, next slide.
So this is just the electromagnetic spectrum. We kind of refer back to this every now and again. We don't need to look at it right now. I mean, we can take a quick look at it, I guess, since we're here. But this shows everything from gamma rays, which are damaging. They're really fast. They're shorter than visible light, but they can cause cancer, can be cancer causing. Luckily, we don't use them. We do get some of this, though, in just our environment. X-rays, everybody knows what an X-ray is. That's why the dentist, right, covers you with the lead vest when you're having your teeth X-rayed, because it can be damaging. It also can lead to free radical damage, which could potentially cause other issues. Ultraviolet radiation, if you get enough of it, it can be, we know it can cause skin cancer, like basal cell and squamous cell cancer, if you have fair skin and you're out in the sun enough. And then we have the visible spectrum right here. So LEDs are based on this, blue all the way through red. Blue is shorter, red is the longest. And generally visible light is not carcinogenic, as we know right now. It doesn't generally, unless it's way out here and it borders this point. We just talked about that. But generally, it doesn't breed free radicals. Infrared is what you feel when you go outside in the, outside and you feel heat. There's no color to infrared. It's invisible, but it creates heat. And then of course, things we don't use like microwave. Well, we don't use microwaves on the skin. Microwaves work by doing this, by moving together. The molecules move together and they create heat. And then of course we have radio frequency, and some of us can use radio frequency. In some states, not in California, but in some states, radio frequency creates deep heat on the dermis, and sometimes deeper than the dermis, and activates the fibroblasts when the fibroblasts are trying to defend themselves against the heat, and the fibroblasts produce more collagen, elastin, and glycosaminoglycans. Anything? Anybody?
Yeah, I want to go back. Beth, did you have a question? No.
Yeah.
Okay.
What's
A question?
I do.
Sure.
That's okay.
Okay.
Oh, do you want to ask a
We can't
question?
hear you.
We could answer a question. I think there might be some like disconnect with the Zoom. Maybe if you could put it in the chat.
Okay, yeah. I would actually like to get your take on something. Most of you know that back in August of 2019, I had surgery on my neck to have 3 goiters taken out of there that were intertwined with my thyroid. Okay, so most of our vendors, you know, say stay away from the thyroid area with anything we do, even LED light. So when I started going through this process, I talked to 2 different physicians. I told them what I did for a living and the type of pieces of equipment I used on my face. And I asked them if any of that could have caused, any of the equipment that I used could have caused this. And they both said no, that anything that we do is not strong enough to do that. What is your thoughts on that?
I'm really, really glad you brought that up, Shelley, because back in the day, in the 80s, myself, as well as Maria Lorenzi, my teaching partner, Shelley, you know her, and also my another partner I have, we all used high frequency on the neck, back and forth on the neck, right? High frequency, we know, stimulates glandular activity. I know it does, because if I did it today, I'd start to get tachycardia, my heart would start beating real fast, and my hands would start shaking. Well, here's the interesting thing. Myself, Maria, Diana, and a lot of us more mature estheticians all have hyperthyroidism, Graves' disease. We all have Graves' disease. I have Graves' disease. I have a little bit of a goiter, but I didn't develop the nodules, but I still have to go in and get it checked out to make sure they don't grow. And we all use this. Is it a coincidence? I don't know, but I always tell the estheticians, don't go over the thyroid. If you're going to go over the thyroid, if you have acne, pull the skin away from the thyroid and spark it like that. Don't place it right on the thyroid. I believe that and I'm really careful. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I'm really careful. I don't use LED on my neck. I don't focus LED. As a matter of fact, I'll use a white towel to cover it, because white doesn't, not absorb LED, so that it doesn't hit my neck. It just hits my face.
Okay, very interesting.
Yeah. Sometimes I've noticed too, the doctors, they don't know our equipment. So they're just giving you kind of their hypothesis, right? They're educated guess, but they might not know.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
But anyhow, Shelley, your nodules, they were benign.
They had to take half my thyroid out. I'm not taking any medication. I actually feel better than I have in a long time. So it was just a very strange thing.
Yeah, I'm glad you're not using the LED over your neck or anything like that, because I don't know, in my mind, I feel that the high frequency did cause hyperthyroidism. And it's just really interesting to know that a lot of estheticians have the Graves' disease.
I would like to actually kind of do a little bit of a study, because I never used high frequency. So high frequencies never touched my neck. So it'd be interested to know, is it just, is it more so the high frequency that would cause that? I'd like to dive deeper into that, on my own kind of thing, because I find it interesting.
And I also know something else, just a really quick side note here. With my thyroid, even though it's controlled, even if I wear like a scarf or anything that rubs against it, the next day I have all the symptoms of hyperthyroidism, which goes to show that even physical stimulation can activate the thyroxine.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's just, I don't know, you want to probably talk to your endocrinologist if you have that issue.
Yeah, food for thought. Thank you. Slimming equipment.
Slimming equipment and how they work. So you must check with your state board, because we know some state boards don't allow certain machines. I do have a body sculpting class coming up, and it does utilize a lot of these different modalities. If you're in other states than California, you probably can use these modalities. So every state's different. Ultrasonic cavitation, or really I should say, it should really be called ultrasound cavitation, because if the sound waves are that deep that they're in the fatty tissue, they're probably ultrasound waves. They're moving a little slower, so they're moving deeper. So what cavitation basically does with ultrasound is it creates a lot of movement in the interstitial fluids, and it creates movement in the fat cell itself, so that it forces, if you have a really good machine, it forces the adipocyte to then break, and it seeps its cytoplasm and all of its contents, and it dies off. It actually dies off. And eventually through peeing it out and some exhaling, you exhale the oxygen part, but peeing it out, it leaves the body. And scientists are saying if it's true ultrasound cavitation, the fat cells die off and they don't come back, because you're born with a certain amount of fat cells that you have, that you'll always have. They can get bigger and they can get smaller unless you kill them off. If you kill them off, they don't come back. Like with liposuction, they're removed. With ultrasound cavitation, they're destroyed by piercing the adipocyte. And then there's radio frequency. So for people who have, let's just say you've had ultrasound cavitation on maybe a fattier area of the body, and it leaves the loose skin, especially I know for people who are over menopause like myself, when you lose fat, the skin doesn't tighten up quite as easily as it used to. So then you want to come in with the radio frequency, and the radio frequency heats up. Yeah, if you could put yourself on mute, that'd be great. Thank you. And the radio frequency heats up the dermis, makes the dermis real hot, above 46 Cs. The dermis gets really hot, and it activates fibroblasts in defense of itself. And the fibroblasts, of course, then produce collagen elastin, and it thickens the dermis over time. It makes the dermis thicker. And when it makes the dermis thicker, and also, by the way, it contracts collagen elastin fibers, so the skin becomes a little bit tighter. Not as tight as if you were to have surgery, but it's still tighter. Then there is something called Lipo Laser. Sometimes it's called, Lipo LED. Has anyone heard of Lipo LED?
I got a story. Me and my stories.
Go ahead. You tell your story first. I want to hear your story.
So when I was living down in Capistrano Beach area, the chiropractor we went to bought a $25,000 piece of equipment to do this. Oh. And he brought this girl in to do these treatments. And I wanted to book an appointment because I wanted to check this out, right? So I didn't tell her who I was or what I did for a living. And I went in there, and this girl strapped these LED paddles over the top of my black pants.
Wow. Really?
Yeah,
over the top?
Literally just strapped me right over the top of my clothes. I just went with it and didn't tell her anything, but I had a little chat with the chiropractor afterwards.
That is really, it's nothing like really blocking the energy with your pants.
Useless, a waste of 30 minutes.
I hope you didn't have to pay for that.
No, I didn't. He let me do this for free, and for giving him his feedback. I had plenty of feedback for him, trust me.
Yeah, because those paddles, if you've seen the paddles, even if you just, Google LED lipo, they're paddles like this, and they emit mostly red LED at a certain wavelength and at a certain pulse. So you place them over the fatty tissue, and you do strap them down, right, for about 30 minutes, like Shelley said, and it enters into the fat cell. It doesn't destroy the fat cell, not like cavitation ultrasound. But what it does is it utilizes the energy. Almost like if you were to go out and jog on a treadmill, you utilize that energy, right? And so it takes the fatty acids, and it pulls the fatty acids and the glycerols, which is true fat, from the fat cell, and it puts it back into systemic circulation so you can use it. The only thing with this modality is you have to then, after you have this procedure, Shelley, you have to go out and work out for like 20 minutes. Otherwise, the fatty acids and glycerols, they find a new home. They find a new cell to deposit into. So it's like exercising, but then you do have to get up for about 15 minutes afterwards, or sometime in the general time frame, and do some cardio.
Yeah, or those vibration platforms. Some places are having people get on those vibration platforms afterwards.
Yeah, and I remember those way back, it's like 30, 40 years ago. They used to have the bands they'd put around you and just vibrate you. I don't know. I mean, that was something of the past.
Yes.
Then there's vacuum therapy or endermology, which actually will vacuum up with steam and suction. and you have to move in the direction of the heart. So it's mostly taking the lymph of the tissue and moving that lymph out of that area. So the area diffuses in terms of swelling. It's not as puffy, right, anymore. But at the same time, and some people say, I don't know the studies behind it, but some people say it does help too. And here's the thing, let me just tell you, a fat cell, right, is made up of fatty acids and glycerols, which is true fat. That you have to get rid of another way. And then the fat cell is also made up of water and CO2, which is a byproduct of cellular respiration. So when you're doing the endermology, almost like when you're doing a body wrap, you're getting rid of the water and the CO2, but you're not really getting rid of the fatty acids and the glycerols. So the cell will shrink a little bit, and you've detoxified the individual, the cell will shrink a little bit, but the true fat doesn't go away with the vacuum therapy, the endermology. But it looks better, you know, you're more detoxified, the skin looks tighter, you look less puffy. Now, body wraps, Shelley, you had brought this one up, the infrared. Do you use the infrared?
I did for a while back in the early 2000s. I actually had endermology in the 1990s, so I was kind of cutting edge back then. And
yeah,
you know, what you said is actually we got some nice results, but again, never long-term results because we were just draining the lymph, like you said. And then I did some infrared too, but never anybody did it enough, you know, to really get some really great results. So it didn't take off that well.
And the infrared too, being, you know, beneficial for lots of different things, it does help to heat up the cell, so the cell will expel the water and the CO2, kind of like with endermology, but utilizing heat rather than utilizing, you know, the vacuum suction or the steam. And with the heat in general, you're probably going to stimulate some fibroblasts, so the skin will look better, right? The color will be more toned, it'll be a little more elastic. But both the two last ones here, vacuum therapy and body wraps or infrared, is a little bit more temporary. Yes, I know lipo laser is temporary too, but at least you really do get to the fatty acids and glycerols according to the science. And there's kind of limited science on this because, you know, when doctors don't use some of these procedures quite as much, the science is not as, you know, you can't find it, it's not as abundant. Any questions, just small questions about this slide?
Nothing's coming up about this slide. We've got other questions, but we'll answer those, you guys. We'll put together a document and send out to all of you because you've got some great questions there.
Okay, so common mistakes made with technology. And Shelley and I, we thought about this, right? Machines used incorrectly, like having a really good machine. I hate to say this too, sometimes because I do work with a lot of doctors in their clinic. I see they buy a lot of machines and they're trained maybe by the manufacturer, but they really don't have an understanding of what's happening to the body or skin physiologically, and then they don't get the right results. Or they just buy a ton of machines that do the same thing and they still don't get the correct results, maybe because they're not using it correctly or have other things, or, you know, the procedure is just not ideal. So machines used for the wrong skin type or condition, not enough knowledge of the machine and how it affects the skin physiologically, so the results are not realized. That's a really, really big one. And then purchasing of too many machines that just kind of do the same thing. I understand, like what Shelley was saying, you could have lots of different machines that do different things or maybe something a little similar, as long as it's not an overkill. What do you think?
I think as long as you're not spending, like you and I had the conversation yesterday, these doctors are spending, you know, big chunks of money.
Hundreds of thousands of dollars.
You know, we're talking smaller, less expensive pieces of equipment for us that you can afford to have all of them, and that's fine, but not huge amounts of money. Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
And popular services in skincare clinics today, our top picks, of course, probably all of your top picks is to treat anti-aging because, you know, all of us Generation X and the baby boomers ahead of us, acne is a big one, anti-hyperpigmentation, natural remedies. I know in most of my classes I do teach, I have a class for each of these types of treatments and procedure protocols and all of that good stuff. But I think, do you want to, add anything to this, Shelley?
Well, you know what? One piece of equipment you and I did not speak about, but I want to bring it up now that you say natural remedies, is the Ling energy lift. And this is far infrared and tourmaline crystal. And I call this more Eastern medicine than Western medicine kind of thing. And I have to tell you, this is one of my favorite feeling treatments, why it's happening. My clients I'm working on their face and I can see their whole body relax. It's like I'm working here, but it's going through their whole body. And they always tell me that they really, really, really sleep well that night. So can you explain to us why this far infrared and tourmaline would have this effect on our bodies?
Yeah, because I've never used it, but just looking at it and from what you're telling me right now, and energy moves, from the feet through the body and then up through the head, and it passes this way. So if you're using it in this area, you're probably really helping to release a lot of the blocked energy throughout the different, meridians and different points of the body. It's just my guess here from what you've just told me, so that the energy is passing through nice and easily, and there's no blocks and there's no pain and there's no pressure. And so afterwards, don't they just tell you they kind of feel like they're floating on a cloud?
Exactly. And I'll feel that way when I do it on myself. And that's interesting that you would say the feet, because I will do this on the bottom of my feet sometimes. And it's just, I can feel it through my whole body. I don't know how to explain it. Not like I just feel the heat on the bottom of my feet, but afterwards my whole body just feels different. So this is one of those machines that, go ahead.
Yeah, so for the movement of the type of energy that you're using and the way that it's kind of structured and being emitted from the machine, what it sounds like to me is it's helping to release some of the blocked energy throughout the other points in the body. So that it opens up the channels so that you feel less pain and you feel lighter overall. And of course, then blood can circulate better, lymph can circulate better. It probably, I'm guessing again now here, because I haven't used it, but I'm guessing if you're feeling super relaxed afterwards, it's probably even releasing some endorphins and serotonin, right? Because endorphins kind of gives you that natural lift and that natural high, and serotonin makes you feel nice and calm and relaxed. Yeah. I have to check out that machine, Shelley.
It's really cool. There's a whole video on my website. I'm interviewing Ling herself. She's in New York. She's the sweetest lady. She's like in her 70s and looks absolutely incredible. So watch that video on my website.
Oh, that would be great to add to like a natural type facial, right? Mm-hmm. Just for that overall effect. Maybe you could just factor it into your treatments, or it could be an add-on to other treatments.
Yeah, sometimes I'll do it just for a couple of minutes. You could even start a treatment almost off this way just to get the client completely relaxed, or you can do a full-on treatment with them. At their spas in New York, they have 2 big spas. They actually do your back before they even start the facial treatment.
I think that's something that every esthetician and massage therapist should have. Yeah. I know I'm familiar with Reiki, how they balance energy with the hands, but it sounds like it's probably something similar, but it's done with the modality instead, which might make it just easier for everybody.
Easier on your hands. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
I got it. I'm going to check that. That's going to be the next thing I take a look at, because that's actually new to me.
Yeah, we haven't talked about it before. Okay. Next slide.
Do you want to take this one, Shelley, because this is your area?
Yeah. What are the most important things to look for when we're, deciding to purchase from a manufacturer? So I want you to be comfortable with the company. I know a lot of people are we just look at the dollar signs. So you're going online to some of these websites that you don't even really know who they are, and you're purchasing off of the dollar sign. And my fear in that is I've heard, many horror stories when they get the piece of equipment, it doesn't even look like the same thing, right? Because they can take our pictures off of the internet, but you get it, it doesn't look like the same thing. Also, there's so many knockoffs out there. We've bought some of the knockoffs over the years, and we've opened them up, and the inner workings are not anywhere like the real thing. So I just want you to be really careful with that. You need to have a rapport with whatever company you're going to work with. If something goes wrong with it, you want to be able to pick up the phone and call them and talk to them. You want to get an email returned right away. I always get this question, and it always makes me giggle a little bit. Is there training with your equipment, Shelley? And I always, I'm sarcastic. I'll say, no, you're on your own. But when you're out there on the knockoffs, yeah, you usually are on your own. You know, anything you get from me, I'm going to send you full training on it. Plus you have me to talk to about it. So be careful and look into those kind of things when you're purchasing something. How long's the warranty? Typically it's a year. You know, we want at least a year. But if they're going to give longer, like the German company I work with, they give 2 years. My LED company gives 5 years. I mean, that's really great. You know, that's great because you're putting a lot of money into these pieces of equipment. You want to know that the company is going to back it. And then something I always ask the companies before I start working with them, if the piece of equipment malfunctions, what are they going to do about it? You know, I don't want you to be 2 weeks without a piece of equipment, you know, and they need to get it to you right away. I love Method Bridget Kettner, my German company, because if you email me or call me and say, hey, Shell, this piece of equipment went down, I let them know, they send one out to you immediately. No questions asked, you know, that's pretty special. There's not many companies that'll do that. So these are like the big major ones I want you guys to look for when you're looking to buy a piece of equipment.
Yeah, I agree, because there's nothing worse than just buying something off of, you know, I don't know, eBay or something and having no recourse, right? If it breaks down or if it's not working, you want to send it back and you can't. And also not having that training, especially if you are maybe a newer esthetician and you need that extra help for a while. And you want to have somebody that you can call and ask, you know, am I doing this right? Or this isn't working for me. And you'll be able to help them out with that. And I think that's really, really important.
The fun thing about me, I think is because, you know, I'm an esthetician who still works on clients before COVID. You know, I'm not a salesperson who's just trying to sell you a piece of equipment. I've used it. I've worked on it. I've got some other little tidbits and ins and outs to use it, how to use it in treatment, rather than here it is, here's the specific instructions and you're on your own now, you know. There's a different thing from selling a piece of equipment and showing you how to use it than really using it in treatment and being able to see different kind of results and that kind of thing. And
you do have a tutorial too with some of the pieces of equipment. And then you're also available if there's a question and, you know, they purchase a piece of equipment and maybe need some tips or something.
Most definitely. Most definitely.
Yeah. And I think that's great. And I think for all estheticians, but especially newer estheticians, that's essential. Any questions or anything else, Shelley, that you would like to add here?
Sorry, I'm just reading the message. Thank you, Kat. Nope, I think we're good on that.
Okay, so a few last words here on this PowerPoint. Multiple lights, and I know we talked about this earlier, Shelley. Multiple lights, better than just one. I mean, at least what I do, if I'm going to use, let's say, green LED and then red, or blue and then red, I will usually use one and then the other. Because again, if you've got a lot of different wavelengths going on, the wavelengths, they are colliding with each other and can create a new wavelength. And that's not just from me. You know who actually told me that, Shelley, is Giora Fishman, who, I think that's his last name, but who had a really strong background in physics. And so when he told me that, we were at a show and I said, well, look, why does ours just have one and and he told me that. I said, that really makes sense. And I researched it. I mean, I know people do have their machines and they like them and it works well for them, and that's great. But that's just kind of the physics behind it.
Yeah.
Microchanneling versus microneedling. What do you think about? I know you have a great microchanneling unit, right? You have the Regenerate.
You know, I find that all these companies we touched on this a little bit earlier with ultrasound and ultrasonic, you know, they're coming up with these different names. And, you know, microneedling is very specific. And I think they're coming up with microchanneling now because in many states, we can't do microneedling. So they're calling it something else, or they're calling it nanotechnology, right? It's all basically doing the same thing, maybe at not just the depth the microneedling is doing. So it depends on what state you're in and what you can do.
Yeah. Channeling, when I hear channeling or nano needling, I think of more of the I call them the non-needle, where you have more of the rigid edge and the pressure that's still, if you have enough of that and it's deep enough, I feel that it's really effective. And then of course, like what I have here, one of the needles, right? You put a cartridge at the tip of the pen, and then you turn it up and it goes, up and down, kind of like a sewing machine. But I know in a lot of states you can't use that. I know with the needles, when they do go deeper into the epidermis or the dermis, they do cause blood, and that's the reason for that. It's been proven that they do activate fibroblasts, so it's effective. But for those of you who can't use needling, you can also do the microchanneling. And I know, Shelley, you have the Regenerate, which is really awesome to add into all of the treatments for that, especially around the eye area too, right?
It's very effective. It's not as painful as microneedling. I was pleasantly surprised. I had tested microneedling and my clients were like, Shelley, what are you doing to me? Because it does hurt. And I wasn't nice enough to numb them first, right? So when Regenerate contacted me, over 4 years ago, I actually said no at first because I thought at the time that it was just another microneedling piece of equipment and I wasn't interested. But they talked me into it and I got it and I was pleasantly surprised, and I've gotten some great results with it. So I'm super happy with it.
I think so too. And if you, I know I do a class in both microneedling and also like the Regenerate. And for people who can't use the microneedles, but because my students come in from all over the world, some countries, I found out the other day, one of the Canadian estheticians told me that we could do Botox and fillers up here. And of course, in California, we can't use the needle. So it kind of covers both. If you can't do one, you can definitely do the other, and it's effective as well.
Right. Okay.
So what are our thoughts about hydrodermabrasion? What do you think?
I've tested a few different of those machines, and there's nothing necessarily wrong with them. I just felt like, to me, it just felt like I'm doing microdermabrasion and products kind of flopping out at the same time. I didn't think they warranted the price of them. That's all. I just think there's other pieces of equipment that are less expensive that we can get put together and achieve the same results. So that's it.
Yeah, there. I mean, I know with the hydrodermabrasion, you have different types. Some do water with oxygen, not for the oxygen to infuse the hydrant. Some do ingredients. What I generally do both in my clinic and in class, like tomorrow we have a diamond microdermabrasion class together with the ultrasonic. So I find for at least me and my clients, if you do the diamond microdermabrasion, you prep the skin first with maybe a little steam to make it more pliable, right? Then you use the diamond microdermabrasion and you come in with your My Skin Buddy or ultrasonic and you infuse product. The results are phenomenal. And the price point is really good for both you and for the client. So that's how I prefer to do it. I do know a lot of people like the hydrodermabrasion, which I think is fine as well. I don't think you need to use that machine to get the same results though. But
that's a really good point. That's a really good point about the price for the client, because many years ago, I purchased one of the big brand names of these machines, spent a lot of money, $16,000 on it. And I ended up selling it 3 months after I purchased it because I just didn't feel like the results were warranting the amount of money I was having to charge that client just to pay for the machine, nonetheless make some money off of it. It just, I couldn't see it. I kind of got caught up in the whole hype of it and just didn't care for it once I got it in my hands.
The hype of it is a good word for it. And there's so many new things that come out. It's so confusing. And, in the marketing and in the hype of it, like you say, different modalities are touted and then the clients hear about it. The clients want it and you feel it's necessary to get this machine to appease the clients. What I usually do is I'll educate the clients and say, no, we're not going to do hydrodermabrasion, but what we're going to do is the microdermabrasion, diamond head, with the infusion of a product like maybe a growth factor utilizing ultrasonic, and they'll have that done and they'll say, wow, my results are fabulous. And maybe they've had the hydrodermabrasion done elsewhere and they still are really impressed with it. And the price point is better, not just for the client, but it's also less expensive for you. And if you're in business, you need to keep your eye on the bottom line too, as well as the effectiveness of a procedure.
Definitely. Awesome.
Okay, let's turn the page. I'm wondering, Shelley, since we just have about another maybe 5 or 10 minutes, if there are any questions that both of us can answer that you see that kind of pops out at you that might be fairly quick, quick answer?
You got it. Somebody, well, let's see. What other
While she-
classes? Go ahead.
I was going to say, I'll let you take a look at the next slide too, which has some really wonderful information about Shelley's products and some discounts here. This is just so you know, through April 1st, if you call us or you call me, you could even go to Concepts Institute and you say that you were in Tech Talk. All of the classes here that you can see at the bottom are 10% off for you. Right now they're on Zoom. They are, you get the, Zoom lecture in the morning, you get your PowerPoint, you get your demo video. It actually comes with a demonstration video. And each one of these, you keep the demo video, the demo part of it, you keep forever. And these discounts are good through April 1st. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's good. While I was finding one, Beth wants to know, how does far infrared differ from infrared?
Far infrared is a longer nanometer, so it's deeper. It can create more heat. A lot of times when the physicians use laser resurfacing, they'll use that nanometer, right? They will use far infrared. And it can sometimes even tighten muscles for a very short period of time, because when you get that amount of heat into the muscle doesn't like it. So the muscle does this to kind of escape it. And when it does that, it contracts against your facial bones and it gives you a little temporary facelift. So it's deeper, it's usually hotter, and it affects the deeper layers of the dermis.
Good answer. That help, Beth? Yeah, okay. Somebody else says they're using the Wave and they want to know if they should be concerned about the thyroid when we were talking about thyroid information. So this is ultrasound, biomechanical vibration, and LED.
Yeah, I feel for my clients at least, and I know myself just on my own thyroid, that I don't, and I love to use this on the face. I know this is the curve, but I love to use this on the face, but I don't focus right on the thyroid. I might do the sides and then the jawline and the platysma, but I don't focus a lot of energy right on my thyroid, because I'll tell you, every time I do, I get rapid heartbeat. So they might want to check with their doctor, and or if you're not sure, maybe just not really focus a long time on the thyroid.
I don't think I ever even tell anybody go straight over this. It's always to either side, and then right underneath here, because this is the area we're mostly concerned with anyway. I mean, it is a shame because you will see some people where they start to age very interestingly right here, and you want to work that area, but let's better be safe than sorry, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Even like I mentioned with the, not the galvanic, well, actually even with the I don't use the galvanic, I meant ultrasonic. I don't focus too much on that area. Now with microcurrent, sometimes I do. Microcurrent usually doesn't affect it quite as, drastically as some of the other real heating devices.
Michelle, they want to know if you have if you offer certificates with your classes.
Yes, and they look like, we just finished producing one here. They look like that. Well, this is actually the paramedical aesthetics, and the doctor has not signed it yet and embossed it. But here is what they look like. They look like that. So
Very
each
nice.
class comes with a completion certificate. After you've taken 5 of the qualifying clinical aesthetics classes, then you have the option to test out for the clinical aesthetic certificate, just like an extra diploma. That one does look different. It looks like our paramedical. This is actually not this is Dr. Green's from the paramedical program, which is also yet another program. But yes, to answer your question, we do. And at the end of the course, you do get your final certificate, and you do get your pin too, that you put on your scrubs.
Awesome. I think we've got a couple other questions, but like I said, I'll make up a document answering those questions, and we'll send it out to everybody. And we also will send you some people are asking for the PowerPoint itself, so we can send that out as well. I'll prepare all that. Give me till Tuesday, you guys, to get everything done, but I'll get it all off to you. And we so appreciate it. Oh, here's one more. I'm a student. How often do you do these classes? You're not licensed yet. Do you work with students? Because I'm doing a lot of Zoom with students. Can students attend your online classes?
Yeah, all students who are enrolled in a state board approved school right now can attend any of the classes. Obviously, you can't practice without your license, but you can attend the classes. You could still even have the certificate. The certificate will be sent out to you after the class and after passing the test, that is. But then, of course, you have to wait to be able to practice. I have some estheticians or some ladies and guys, they'll come in and they'll take classes even before they start school. I don't know if I'd recommend that, but you can do that. You just can't, of course, practice without your license.
Michele, that's fabulous, because I was just working with a school the other day and we were talking about getting their resumes ready for when they go out into the real world. And wouldn't it look great to have these, these advanced classes on that resume when they go to interview for jobs? So that's really, really good to know.
It's been really, really helpful for our estheticians, I think, that are not just newer in the industry, but maybe that have been around for a long time. And we also have another program called Paramedical Aesthetics that right now is online on demand. It was actually filmed in a live class, broken down into lots and lots and lots of modules. It's with myself and Dr. Bradley Green, who's our medical director. And it really helps people work more effectively after the training in a medical office, so that you could speak the same language as the doctors and the nurses. And I see often doctors like that when another doctor endorses you, they seem to feel, okay, okay, let's take her in, or let's take them in and check them out.
Great point. Great point. Well, you guys, we want to thank you all for taking your Sunday morning to spend some time with us. I hope you learned a thing or two. I enjoyed it, and I certainly did. Thank you, Michele. You are absolutely fabulous.
And thank you too, Shelley. Always love to be with you in seminars like this. Yeah, it's great fun to have everybody.
We make a good team, and we're talking about maybe doing this again in April, and we'll have a whole nother set of questions that you all will come up with. So watch out for my emails for a date in April. Okay.
Yes, and just also to mention too, Shelley, if they aren't following us on Educated Esties on Instagram, right? Or Concepts Institute, or even I think yours is Shelley Hancock Consulting.
ShelleyHancock.com.
There you go. Yeah. On Instagram, Educated Esties, just like Educated Estheticians, but Educated Esties. I know that Regina and Hope would like me to mention that, I'm sure.
Yes, yes. Thank you for remembering that. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. I hope you have a great
day.
Yes. See you
Bye,
again.
everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Michele. Thank you, Shelley.
Thank you all.
Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.